What's up everybody, it's Robin Gaming here. So this week is going to be the awards week, like we're gonna get the Game Awards coming up of course, and that's why I figured for myself I also wanted to already start doing my lists of the games I enjoyed the most this year, so you're gonna find out my game of the year and stuff like that a little later on in the week, but I thought I would start off with a video that I'm sure many of you will be interested in, which is the top 3 worst and most disappointing games that I've played this year. Now, this is the thing with a negative video like this, there's always gonna be people that get mad at you for calling out certain games that you maybe actually did enjoy yourself, and that's why I really quickly wanna, as usual, say that of course this is just my opinion. You don't have to take it seriously in any way. You judge for yourself if you want to do that or not. I'm simply sharing my opinions with you all, and it's up to you, you know, if you want to attach any value to that, I guess. So with that being said, let's simply get into these 3 games that don't necessarily, once again, have to be bad per se, but there's gonna be bad games and there's gonna be disappointing games to me, and I pretty much put both in the same category for one video, because otherwise, you know, I would just really start making lots of videos about the same topic that's very unneeded. So let's simply get into my number 3 pick, and this is exactly what I mean. This is not by any means a bad game, this is going to be a disappointing game, and at number 3 I put Mafia 3. Now, I myself didn't even have very high expectations for this game. I never played any of the other Mafia games in the series. It's pretty safe to say a lot of people did really look forward to this one, and also walked away quite, you know, disappointed, I guess. But for me personally, like when I started playing the game, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time playing Mafia 3. I played it for around 15 hours and then I decided to quit. I never got around to actually beating it, but in the end what was just so sad about the game was simply that, you know, my second hour playing it was the exact same as my 15th hour playing it. I was basically doing the exact same thing over and over and over, and that was what simply yeah, sucked about the game, because I feel if it really did have lots more gameplay variety, it had a great story, so if it did have that as well, the gameplay next to it, then I'm sure I would have really thoroughly enjoyed playing it, and that's why in the end I simply walked away disappointed from Mafia 3, because it just didn't offer a lot of variety or enjoyment after a few hours anymore, simply because at that point you were just done with the game. So yeah, let's simply get into the number 2 now, I guess, and this is really gonna be a hate it or love it situation. I'm sure many of you are not going to agree with this one, because I've heard quite some praise for the game. I give my number 2 to Firewatch, and the reason why is because there's actually multiple reasons for it, I guess. Firewatch was a game that I bought for I think $20 or something, or euros in my country, of course. I bought it for that amount. I beat it in one day. Like, it took me maybe 4 hours to beat it or something, I think, from what I can still remember. And it certainly didn't help that on PS4 the game literally played in like what seemed to be a good solid 15 frames per second. You know, it really wasn't smooth at all. The frame drops were crazy in that game, but also that, you know, I felt like the game really was a walking simulator, let's be honest, and it didn't make you do many more things than simply walking around, following a story, and sometimes picking up some items. That was basically what the game consisted out of, while it tried to tell you a good story. Now, granted, the conversations were cool, and it was very well worked out in that way, and interesting to a point, but at the same time, you know, the whole way through, I kind of was like, I don't know if I really want to keep playing this game. It just didn't grab me that much, but I felt like the ending could really satisfy me, and I was like, it really felt like it was working towards this ending that would make the whole experience worth it, you know what I mean? And then the ending itself, without spoiling anything, was pretty much just a big disappointment, something that you are just walking away off with a reaction like, okay, whatever, and it made the entire game feel just unnecessary to, you know, to the point where I was like, well, what kind of story did the developers want to tell with this game? Why did they want to make me necessarily experience this story? There was just nothing really special about it in the end, and that's what I found to be so disappointing about Firewatch. It was, you know, both, well, yeah, 3 reasons: the disappointing ending, the frame rate that was simply terrible, that made the experience super unsmooth, is that a word? Anyway, you know what I mean. It just didn't run very well, and yeah, you know, there was another one. What was I just thinking of? Oh yeah, simply that it was a walking simulator, I guess. So that was pretty much, that was pretty much why I didn't enjoy Firewatch that much myself at all. That's the one I would put at number 2. And then finally we get to the number 1. This is not going to come as a big surprise to many of you, and this is a game that I would classify as both disappointing and simply a bad game. And I do want to quickly point out, I never had high hopes for this game at all. I was very clear about that. Hell, a few weeks before it came out, I made a video saying in the title that I expected people would be getting disappointed by No Man's Sky, of course I'm talking about, and I had lots of hate for it. That video itself had like 500 dislikes, I believe, because the rabid No Man's Sky fan base that was so hyped for the game to come out up until the launch of the game was crazy. And I do want to quickly point out that those people have not driven me to be or to hate No Man's Sky or something, or to put it at number 1. No, I simply feel like that game is even kind of a scam in a way because of the price, $60. It just felt like a rip-off, like they were trying to rip off people with that price, because it's simply an indie game that was made by a small team and that clearly was basic, boring, repetitive, and didn't have a whole lot of stuff to it. There were good parts about the game, like I pointed out in my reviews, like it had a pretty interesting soundtrack, which I enjoyed quite a bit. And also, of course, the procedural generation was an impressive thing, to the point where when I played No Man's Sky in my first hours, I was pretty impressed by it, I'll be very honest with you. And I had a good time up until, 2 or 3 hours in, where you realize, oh, this mining thing, just standing here mining something, going back to my base, delivering my resources, and pretty much doing the exact same thing over and over again on a different planet that looks kind of different but not really. It was just, yeah, I mean, I used those words in my review, basic, boring, and repetitive, I believe, and that's simply what I still stand by right now. That game was, I mean, I saw it coming. Once again, I really saw it coming, so in that way, I'm not even very disappointed by it. And I got it for free. I want to quickly point that out. I got a review copy by Sony. I was in no way actually, I made the choice myself to give you my very honest opinion about the game, because at the same time you kind of sometimes risk even these review copies in a way. Some people are gonna tell you that game is pretty okay because they simply feel like, oh, I'm getting review copies from Sony, like I should not be downplaying the game too much, you know what I mean? I'll just say that it's maybe a disappointing game, but I won't flat out say that it's a bad game. But I strongly believe, and I'm gonna stand by that, and I'm gonna keep saying it, that No Man's Sky was a bad game, a game that I would not recommend to anyone, that wasn't even to me worth $20, let alone $60, and I feel like they ripped off consumers with that price simply because of the hype, that people were so excited for No Man's Sky, and I got why, but at the same time I could also see that it wasn't going to be justified. And I think Hello Games and Sony maybe even played in on that fact and therefore made the game $60 to make some quick money. And look on the, just look at the fan, I guess, the reception to the game. It's been an absolute outrage, and I can totally kind of understand why that happened, and I feel like Hello Games themselves are to blame for that. And yeah, in the end, that's for me my number 1, the worst game, the most disappointing game of this year, easily No Man's Sky. And with that being said, that was, I guess, my list for, the 3 most disappointing and the worst games of 2016. Let me know, of course, which games you would put in this list for yourself in the comments. And then for now, I hope you still enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings by it if you actually really enjoyed these games, of course. In the end, it's all a matter of opinions, so please respect that. And let me know if you disagree on any of these in the comments, of course. But with that being said, yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.